the secret sounds of plants. Contrary to what we've always believed, plants are not quiet at all. When they're thirsty, cut, or under stress, they make sounds, real ones, only too high-pitched for human ears to hear. Humans can detect sound up to about 20 kilohertz. Plants, when stressed, click at 40 to 80 kilohertz, well above what we can hear, but well within the range of dogs, mice, bats, and insects. Those clicks aren't random static, they're tiny pops that burst through the air when something inside the plant goes wrong. At Tel Aviv University, a team of scientists set up a simple but brilliant experiment to prove it. They placed several kinds of plants, tomato, tobacco, wheat, corn, cacti, and henbit, into two environments. One was a completely silent, soundproof box. The other was a normal working greenhouse full of everyday background noise. Then they placed ultra-sensitive microphones, able to pick up sounds between 20 and 250 kilohertz, about 4 inches from each stem, and let them listen for hours. The results were astonishing. Every plant in the test made noise, but not all the time. The difference came down to stress. Healthy, well-watered plants barely made a sound, maybe one faint click an hour. But when the plants were cut or left without water, the microphones went crazy. Stressed plants fired off dozens of pops every hour, each one a cry from the inside that we could never hear. So what exactly is happening inside them? Think of a plant's body like a living plumbing system. It's full of microscopic pipes called xylem that move water up from the roots to the leaves. When a plant gets too dry or is injured, those water columns can snap, creating tiny air bubbles. When those bubbles form or collapse, they vibrate, and that vibration travels through the air as a tiny pop. Scientists call it cavitation. Researchers have known about cavitation for years, but they usually detected it using contact sensors attached to stems. The big discovery here is that those pops don't just stay inside the plant. They travel through the air where microphones can record them. But the team didn't stop at recording. They trained artificial intelligence models to recognize patterns in those pops. Dehydration, cutting, and normal growth all produce slightly different sound signatures. The computers learned those fingerprints. Soon they could tell not only whether a plant was in trouble, but also what kind of trouble it was in, and even how severe it was. And it worked surprisingly well. Even in the noisy greenhouse, the models could tell a thirsty plant from a freshly cut one. It could even tell the difference between species. Tomato clicks don't sound like tobacco clicks.
Researchers have discovered that sounds made by plants can be heard by some animals and insects, though they are outside the range of human hearing.
The pattern recognition accuracy in some trials reached around 70%. Remarkable considering these clicks are happening far beyond what we can hear. In terms of strength, those pops are about as loud as a normal human conversation, which means small animals like mice, moths, or bats could easily pick them up from 10 to 16 feet away, and in nature they might actually do that. One recent study showed that female moths avoided laying eggs on dehydrated tomato plants after hearing those ultrasonic clicks. In other words, insects might already be using this hidden layer of sound to make choices in their environment, something humans are only now beginning to notice. So why does this matter to us? Because the sounds happen early. Long before leaves droop or change color, the pops start firing. That means a farmer could, in theory, know days ahead of time which plants are getting stressed, long before they visibly show it. That's game-changing for agriculture. Farming takes up about 70% of all the freshwater humans use. Every gallon matters, and droughts are hitting harder every year. If you could listen to crops and water, only the ones asking for help, you'd save water, save power, and protect yields. The technology can run on battery-powered sensors that take short recordings and sleep between checks. The data could stream straight to a phone or tablet. Farmers could train their own models over time, fine-tuning them to the specific noises of their crops, their soil, and their climate, like a smart assistant learning a voice. For humans, this discovery is an opportunity. Imagine drone-mounted microphones scanning fields for drought stress. Imagine using this tech in reforestation projects to track how young trees handle dry seasons, or in city landscaping to save water without killing trees. Even NASA could use it in space agriculture one day, monitoring crops in lunar or Martian greenhouses where every drop of water is priceless. Of course, there are challenges. Sound doesn't travel perfectly. Wind can distort high frequencies, and some crops are naturally quieter than others. A field under the hot sun is much harder to monitor than a closed greenhouse. But researchers say you don't need a complicated array to start. Just a single good microphone and a simple setup can capture the effect if it's placed close enough. Those clicks and cries tell one story, but underground, a whole different kind of communication is happening. How trees secretly talk underground. Beneath your feet, the ground isn't quiet. It's packed with a hidden web of life so fine you could stack dozens of its threads across a single grain of sand. Those threads belong to fungi, and together they form an underground network that links the roots of different plants like nature's slow-motion internet.
Their function is to produce dust-like spores, which are then blown away through the woodland to grow elsewhere.
Scientists call it a mycorrhizal network, but it's really a trade route, a living marketplace where plants and fungi swap what they each need to survive. Fungi can reach places roots can't. Deep cracks, tiny pores, and microscopic pockets of soil where minerals and nutrients get trapped. They dissolve those minerals, pick up water, and deliver it to the plant. In return, the plant pays in sugar made through photosynthesis. When the same fungus connects two or more plants, it becomes a courier, able to move more than just water or minerals, sometimes even carbon, nitrogen, or chemical messages that help one plant sense what's happening to another. Think of it like a set of shared pipes underground. Not every plant is connected, and not every connection stays active. But when the link is there, one plant's experience can influence another's. Take tomatoes, for example. When a tomato plant gets attacked by pests, it starts pumping out defensive chemicals, making its leaves tougher, its taste bitter, and its smell a warning. In controlled experiments, when a healthy tomato was connected to an attacked one through a shared fungus, it started preparing defenses before anything touched it. It didn't see the pest, didn't smell it, but the message arrived underground. A follow-up study found that the untouched plants even boosted specific defense genes and enzymes, which made them harder for insects to chew. When researchers timed how long it took for one attacked plant to trigger a reaction in a connected neighbor, the response came within hours, not weeks or days. And that warning signal only appeared when the fungal bridge was intact. Remove the fungus, and the communication stopped cold. That tells us the fungus wasn't just helping both plants survive.
That those threads are essential for the growth and health of many of the woodland plants.
It was the messenger itself. The network also seems to help plants endure tough times. When drought hits or salt builds up in the soil, plants linked with fungi tend to hold up better. Some of that strength comes from better nutrition, but some comes from what scientists call priming. That's when a plant stays slightly on alert, ready to react faster when stress strikes. Tomatoes partnered with arbuscular mycorrhizal fungi, for instance, show tougher growth in dry or salty conditions. They regulate water more efficiently and activate stress response genes sooner. Over and over, experiments showed that this partnership tilts the odds of survival in a plant's favor when things get rough. But here's where it's important to keep perspective. Over the years, stories have popped up about mother trees feeding their young through fungal networks, giant forest elders nurturing their seedlings like parents. It paints a nice picture, but the data so far doesn't quite live up to it. In 2023, a detailed review looked at dozens of studies and found mixed evidence for large-scale resource sharing in wild forests. Another review came to the same conclusion.
Naturalists thought of mushrooms as a type of mysterious plant that didn't need sunlight.
Yes, fungi connect trees, but claims about forests acting like one big family are ahead of the evidence. The truth is more interesting. The network works sometimes, under the right mix of species, soil, and conditions. Some plants benefit, some don't. Some fungi are generous couriers, others hoard what they collect. It's not a grand, peaceful commune. It's a marketplace where everyone's trading, competing, and looking out for themselves. And competition underground can get brutal. Take the black walnut tree, nature's quiet street fighter. Its roots, leaves, and even the shells of its nuts release a chemical called juglone, a natural herbicide that can stunt or kill other plants nearby. Plant tomatoes, peonies, or petunias too close to a mature walnut, and they often turn yellow and wilt. even if the soil and water seem fine. The invisible culprit is juglone, leaking from fallen leaves and roots into the soil. How far can it reach? Usually about 50 to 60 feet from the trunk, roughly the spread of the tree's roots. Beyond that, microbes and oxygen break the compound down. Juglone behaves differently depending on soil type and weather. In wet, compacted soil, it lingers longer. In loose, well-aerated soil, microbes destroy it faster. That's why two gardens with the same kind of tree can look completely different. One a graveyard for flowers, the other thriving under careful mulch and airflow. The chemical isn't evil, it's a strategy. The walnut tree doesn't hate other plants. It just fights for survival like everything else in crowded soil. And it's not alone. Other plants use similar tricks, though less dramatically. Sunflowers, rye, sorghum, and even some grasses release compounds that slow down competitors. These chemicals are known as allelopathic agents. They're the quiet weapons plants use to carve out space, claim sunlight, and reduce competition for nutrients. When you think about it, this underground world is a mix of teamwork and turf wars. Fungal threads weave trade routes between roots, sharing resources and alerts. At the same time, roots and leaves leak defensive chemicals to push rivals back.
They have discovered that plants without chlorophyll, such as the fungi, cannot make food for themselves.
In one season, a young plant might benefit from a fungal bridge. In the next, it could suffer from the chemistry left behind by another species. We've seen how roots trade and compete underground. Now it's time to see how the signals move within the plant itself.